Hello, America. This is another version of What Are We Doing, America? DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. What is diversity, equity, and inclusion? Diversity, equity, and inclusion, a concept and practice used by organizations to recognize and value differences among people, ensure fair opportunities for everyone to foster a work environment where all feel welcomed and respected. DEI refers to practices and policies intended to support people who come from varying backgrounds and give them resources they need to thrive in the workplace. DEI frameworks take into account factors like race, gender, and sexual orientation, so teams can find ways to help employees from marginalized groups succeed. DEI are organizational frameworks which seek to promote the fair treatment and full participation of all people, particularly groups who have been historically underrepresented or subject to discrimination on the basis of identity or disability. So what is diversity, equity, and inclusion really? Diversity, a noun, means the state of being diverse. Variety, a range of different things, the practice or quality of including or involving people from a range of different social and ethnic backgrounds and of different genders, sexual orientations, etc. Equity, a noun, means justice according to the natural laws or right specifically. Freedom from the bias or favoritism. Sometimes that is equitable, or something that is equitable equal justice. Inclusion, also a noun, the action or state of including or being included within a group or structure, a person or thing that is included within a larger group or structure. The practice or policy of providing equal access to opportunities and resources for people who might otherwise be excluded or marginalized, such as those who have physical or intellectual disabilities and members of other minority groups. So, Republicans want to talk about DEI. Oh well, that's swell, as they used to say in the old days. Well, let's talk about DEI then, but not as they evaluate it. Let's keep it real. Let's get down to the real nitty gritty, okay? As they also used to say in the old days. Why do I refer to the old days? Because that's where we have to go to get to the real answers. You see, back in my days, in order to get a chance to even compete for a job with a white person, especially a white male, a black person had to be at least twice as smart or twice as good at whatever was necessary. If we were just as smart or just as good, it was not good enough, and we were summarily passed over. If we could not establish the fact that we not only matched our white counterpart, but greatly exceeded them, we did not stand a chance. That was just the fact, check. The accepted norm of our time. That was the whole idea behind affirmative action. Finally, a program that actually gave people of color a fighting chance to get their foot in the door, to finally be seen as an equal. I remember I was in high school when it started. I was a good student who got good grades, especially in science. I was a straight A student in chemistry, biology, and physics, my favorite subjects. I went to my school counselor to ask him about going to college to study chemistry. And do you know what that man, an older white man, told me? Quote, "Oh, I'm sorry. There's no such thing as black chemists. Maybe you should look into something more suitable for you, like food service or woodworking." What the natural expletive deleted. Woodworking or food service? Is that what they thought? was the only thing black people should aspire to? Luckily, our school had two black counselors, a husband and wife, as a matter of fact, the Alexanders. Thank God for them. Mr. Alexander heard the whole conversation and stopped me before I cussed that man out. He could see it in my eyes. He pulled me into his office and he told me to listen to him. He said, "Don't listen to that guy, listen to me. You could be anything that you aspire to be. Whatever you put your mind to, you can do it." That man was a godsend. He taught me stuff. He gave me courage to follow my dreams and fight for what I really wanted. Okay? Funny thing, fate. It just so happened that after I graduated, my first job, my first real job, was at Eastman Kodak on Lake Avenue. And guess what my job was? I was the first African American to work in research and development as a chemical engineer at Eastman Kodak. I was very good at my job and I liked my job. Everything was going great. We were a team. I was accepted as an equal, or so I thought. We would go to lunch together, play pool or ping pong in the lounge, then return to the office where we would play chess, talk for about 10, 15 minutes or so, and then go back to work when the boss said, "Okay, guys, time to go to work." There was no problem at all. There were other people who ate lunch when we did. Some of them were black. But I noticed all of the other black people on the job were either in housekeeping or food service. I was the only black person who worked as an engineer. So after getting to know some of them by playing pool and basketball outside, and, I became acquainted with them. And they accepted me as cool enough to hang with them. I guess they didn't think I was a white boy. So one day they asked me, "Hey, Winston," we was in line to get food. They said, "Hey, Winston, come and sit with the brothers today." I said, "Okay." So I thought nothing of it. I sat with them, ate lunch. Afterwards, played a game of pool, a game of ping pong. And when I finished, I noticed it was almost time, so I went downstairs to the office. As I approached the office, I could hear everybody in there talking. As I arrived in the office, they were all talking until I opened the door and walked in. Then it got silent. One by one, they all walked out of the office. No one said a word to me, not even the guy I played chess with every day. They all walked out and left me all alone in that office, wondering, what the hell just happened? It's like all of a sudden they noticed, "Oh my God, he's a nigger." What had I done? How did I mess that up so miserably? From that day forward, no one hardly spoke to me. They all just thought it was necessary to tell me what to do, like they treated the other black people. I was no longer an equal, just because I sat with the brothers one day. Then something funny happened. All of a sudden, it was time for me to learn something new. My actual job was working a machine called the Jetamizer, and the chemical we produced was an emulsion called P10545. I don't know how I still remember that. The white stuff on the back of a picture? That's what I made. All right? And we were mixing it in a vat that had to come to a specific gravity of, let's say, 38.45. It had to be recorded in a book. Every time I made the chemical for the first vat, it was exactly 38.45. But when I looked in the book to record it, I noticed nobody else came close. Sometimes they went up to 40 or were as low as 36.5. Oh, never actually 38.45. But all of mine were. Every single one. Dig that. Then as the weeks went by, I learned to do the first vat, the second vat, the centrifuge. Next thing I know, every time I learned something new, the guy whose place I took moved up and moved into the lab. They had me working like a Hebrew slave. I mean, sweating my butt off, going from here to there, back and forth, while they sit in the office and drink coffee and do research in the lab and all that stuff. And for some reason, I was never invited into the lab. As I learned each new job, my co-workers moved up and quickly were invited into the lab, but I wasn't. While I was working my ass off. It didn't even seem fair, but like I said, that was the expected norm of that time. That's how they treated us. That's how they treated me when they noticed I wasn't one of them anymore. I was one of us. Okay? So you see, we as African Americans have to be perfect or close to perfect at what we can do just to be accepted. So wear that DEI as a badge of honor. Don't shy away from it. Embrace it. And say, yes, I am a DEI hire. That means I am actually superior to you, just to be considered equal. Call me DEI all you want, but don't ever try to decipher what it means, because it does not mean what you think it means. We will control the narrative. It is not that we got the job or position we did not deserve just because we are people of color or female or whatever. No, it means that we had to exceed and excel above one of you just to be considered. Thank you very much. When I left my job for in 90, I left my job at the city school district. I worked there 10 years, and I left and went to work at New York State at Boise Detention Center called Industry, or no, it was a WACA residential center. As I learned about the hierarchy on the job, I noticed something very strange. We had 3 buildings that housed 20 residents each. There were 3 YDA3s on each building and 2 youth division counselors on each building. The funny thing was that on each building, they had a YDC who was black and a senior YDC who was white. But I also found out that each black YDC had a higher college degree, more experience, and more time in service than the white senior YDC. When I asked how could this be, I was told, don't ask. So you see, the Supreme Court was wrong to nullify affirmative action. And no, DEI does not mean less qualified. It means just the opposite. Even if we have more time in service, more experience, even if we're more qualified or have a higher college degree than our white male counterparts, we are still subordinate and less likely to get the position, because I'm sorry to tell you, racism is not dead. As a matter of fact, since Barack Obama was elected to the presidency, we have seen racism rise its ugly head again, to the point where DEI Donald Trump was elected. Why? Because he would say out loud what most racists were thinking, but were afraid to say because they didn't want the controversy. They didn't want to lose their job or be called a racist. So call me DEI. I am not ashamed, but you will not define what it means. You really want to know what it means? DEI stands for, damn it, everyone's included. Now, mind you, I already know we won't be invited to all of your barbecues, and we damn sure ain't gonna follow you and some of y'all into the woods. Yeehaw! If you really want to get a good glimpse of where DEI is needed, look no further than the U.S. Senate. The Republican Party is a party we are not invited to. Okay, I know some of you will say, hey, wait a minute. It's not all white. They got Tim Scott. Tim Scott adds a little color to the otherwise monochromatic proceedings. Just as for a long time, Clarence Thomas was the only black face on the Supreme Court. Yet everybody knows both of them are Klondike bars. They may be dark chocolate on the outside, but on the inside, they're all vanilla ice cream, baby. So you can't even use them as tokens. So, in closing, I would just like to say, people of color, women, and those who want to determine their own pronouns, don't run from DEI, embrace it. Be thankful for it. But don't let it define you. You redefine it. We are not taking any jobs or positions for our white counterparts, our white male counterparts. Like the Republican Party, Fox News, and all those other news outlets are trying to appropriate it as such. No, on the contrary, DEI means we just ignore, we are more qualified, dignified, but vilified and stigmatized just to get a chance to be verified and equalized so we can get a chance at the prize position. And that's my word. DEI stands for defy every injustice. We must fight for our rights and defy every reference that unjustly accuses people of color or women of being less than, not good enough, or merely a color hire or an inclusivity hire which took a position from a more qualified white male. I heard somebody say if they got on an airplane and there was a black person or a female as the pilot, they'd get off. Well, get your ass off then. You know, that's just propaganda perpetrated by Fox News and all the other alt-right and far-right channels like Newsmax, Breitbart, One America News Network, OANN. On the contrary, even if it was a DEI hire, you better believe that the candidate for the job had to be twice as good as their white male counterpart, and that's keeping it real. So yeah, I'm DEI, and now you know why. So, if you must entertain yourselves with the notion of DEI, stop trying to make everyone believe that it means something that it does not. What you are really attempting to indoctrinate is dehumanizing, engineered institutionalism. That is your modus operandi. But we are not falling for it. Call me DEI one more time, and everyone will know exactly what you mean. As the facade of superiority fades into the moonlight, and you succumb to your own sword, and you are foisted upon your own petard, thank you so much for your admission of submission to your own fragility, knowing that one of you thought you should have had a position that was attained by someone you thought was a subordinate who outwitted and outmatched the status quo. And that's my word for today. So, what are we doing, America? What are we going to do about this DEI? Kamala, Democrats, everybody who they say is a DEI hire, embrace it. Because now you know what it means. All right? Thank God for me. Thank God for you. Thank God for the United States of America, where I am free to be me, and you're free to be you. That's my word for today. All right? Thank you all. God bless you, and good day. Love you guys.